Well, good evening, everybody. It's 7:30 Eastern Time on the 11th of April, 2019. Hard to believe we're still talking snowstorms around here. Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee as we get this night underway, looking at the Plains snowstorm day 2. This has been quite a storm, really, so far. It's just, in terms of depth, in terms of the lowest pressure, if you think back only just a few weeks or so ago, when we had the storm that went up to the Great Lakes with pressures down in the near 970 millibars or something to that effect. This storm, from the standpoint of pressure, is not nearly as deep, but it is. I think in a lot of ways it's more impressive because of the fact that this one's moving very, very slowly. It's not flying up rapidly northeastward, and where you get a 12-hour or so period of heavy precipitation and done. This has been a 2-day process, and it's going to continue overnight into Friday as the system continues to shift to the north. We have snow amounts through this morning, which I thought actually were fairly impressive, and it doesn't count what's fallen through the day. I looked at the observations at a number of stations where the first shot of snow went through, then kind of got on the light side, then it picked up again. So let's get to all the action, and we will start tonight. We'll start with the watches and warnings that are currently in place. Now, we don't have as many watches and warnings as up at this point that we did yesterday, of course, which makes sense. It's done in Colorado with just a few remaining winter weather advisories up in southwest Nebraska, but then you still have these blizzard warnings up throughout much of northern and northeast Nebraska, still covering a good portion of the state of South Dakota, except for the extreme west and northwest. And then the blizzard warnings extend into southwestern Minnesota. And we have winter storm warnings up throughout the rest of Minnesota, with the exception for a handful of counties in the southeast corner. And pretty much the entire northern half of Wisconsin, advisories surrounding that go into the upper peninsula of Michigan, the western part of the UP, under winter storm warnings. Still getting wind issues down in southwest Texas, and the very dry conditions there. So we have red flag warnings that are up. We also have some various freeze and frost warnings. Remember, the growing season has already gotten underway. And wind advisories over a number of states from northern Alabama and Mississippi northward through the Ohio Valley. We do have severe weather risk to talk about in Illinois and into western Indiana, but no severe weather watch boxes up at the moment. They may start to see those. They may wind up seeing them during the overnight, so just bear that in mind as we go forward. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this, and here's this. Might as well get the severe weather situation outlined here. So here's the Storm Prediction Center's view on severe weather for tonight. A slight risk throughout just about the whole state of Illinois, under a slight risk for severe weather, including Chicago, by the way. Marginal risk goes almost to the Ohio-Indiana border, down on the southern flank in southwestern Kentucky, touching into northwest Tennessee, southeast Missouri, and then on northward from there, and a very small portion of eastern Iowa. And you can kind of see those radar echoes working in the background there as they start to come into that slight risk. Again, I'm thinking we'll probably, we're going to see a watch box. We'll probably see it later on this evening or during tonight. I want to alert you. We'll come back to this also a bit later. Just to show you the severe weather risk with this storm, where it's going forward. And tomorrow, the severe weather risk is going to be much less. The system, the Plains blizzard, will be in the northern Great Lakes and weakening. So we'll have, I guess, what you could probably call a leftover area of marginal risk in the western half of Pennsylvania and northern West Virginia. A little tiny portion there in southeastern Ohio. Now there's a second area of marginal risk that starts to activate over in West Texas And that area is going to be as a result of the next storm system that is going to be developing in Texas and heading up into the Ohio Valley for the weekend. And that is going to produce a large area of slight to enhanced risk for severe weather. This is for Saturday morning, 8 a.m. till Sunday morning, 8 a.m. An enhanced risk in northeast Texas, northern half of Louisiana, and a small portion of southern Arkansas. A larger area, obviously, of slight risk, covering the rest of East Texas, the rest of Louisiana, almost all of Mississippi, up through central Arkansas, and a very tiny portion of western Alabama. And then we're going to shift that severe weather area. This is on their day 4 forecast, which was yesterday's day 5. The Storm Prediction Center still showing a 15% probability of severe weather, so that would be considered a slight risk. 30% is the enhanced risk. So 15% would come up as slight risk for, this is for Sunday into Monday, for Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, and Georgia, a small portion of southeast Louisiana and southeast Mississippi, and even kind of sneaking in there into northwestern parts of South Carolina. And we'll cover all of that when we start looking at the weather models. Right now, I have the surface plot here of temperatures, wind, and the radar echoes all at the same time. And where I'll bring up, this is Lamar's Municipal Airport, and just to the southwest of there is Sioux City, Iowa. Okay, so the low center is actually on the Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska, right in that, I guess if you want to call that, it's the triple point of some kind. But it's right in there, that low center. And if you look at the wind barbs, they really, they're the indicator. You've got southerly winds running near Sioux City, and then points north at Sheldon, Iowa. It's southeast at 15. You go up to Sioux Falls, and you've got a northeast wind at 25 with a temperature of 34, and Yankton is northwest at 20 with a temperature of 34. So right in there is the actual low center. And we go further north, you see temperatures in the 20s at Madison. Now we're into the state, I believe we are in South Dakota at this point. Not all these obs. Mitchell is at 28, and Huron at 28, Watertown at 27. They have a sustained wind at 30. Their observation is reporting northeast at 31, gusting to 40 with a peak wind of 43. Definitely getting sustained winds are every bit of 20 to 35, and still seeing some gusts up into the high 40s and low 50s. Aberdeen itself is northeast at 31, gusting to 38 with a temperature of 28 and a peak wind of 43. Just a couple of more. Sisseton is 26 to 37 with a gust of 40, and then you guys start to get up into a little bit further north. Gwinner is 30 to 38. Oaks Airport is 32 gusts to 40. A lot of these temperatures here are all in the middle and upper 20s. So, and the radar echoes, of course, showing that we've got snow coming down in those areas, and now even up into North Dakota and points further north. This is really, I think it's actually, this is all said and done, it's probably going to be considered an overproducer with respect to snow, because we're still putting amounts down and we still have to get through the overnight. And as we move to the east, you can see the radar echoes showing up with two lines of, with these showers that run down from southern Wisconsin, further south. Look at the temperature. Look at the huge temperature difference between what's going on at Chicago, which is at 66 at the moment, Milwaukee, which is not that far away, I believe it's only about a 90-minute drive, is 41. And you go north and west of there, you're looking at temperatures that go from Joliet, Illinois, is at 70. You run up north and west of there near Aurora, it's 55. not all these stations, when you hover your mouse over that, Rochelle is 51. You hover the mouse over the ob, and it'll bring up the full ob. Rockford, Illinois, with a northeast wind there, is at 40. You've got east and northeast winds. Chicago's literally right on the edge of that. And then you just go south of there, and you've got southerly winds with temperatures in the middle to upper 70s. We'll go further south and head into Kentucky and Tennessee, also middle and upper 70s. Trying to see where are the 80s. Do we have any 80s anywhere? Yeah, we do, finally. 80s show up in, they just were there, but the numbers popped away. Here we go. They're hard to see, but you go around Birmingham is at 81. It's in the upper 70s to around 80 through much of Georgia. And then you start to get into some, the higher numbers here, 82, 83, and then back down into the 70s as you head down toward the Gulf Coast. Unlike yesterday, where we saw these ridiculous temperatures in Texas. Remember, yesterday they were in the middle and upper 90s. You had temperatures down. I think San Antonio was at 95 yesterday. They're at 82 today. Laredo was over 100. They're at 86. You got still middle to upper 70s. One of the things that I did notice is the fact that Amarillo actually has snow in their forecast. With the next weather system going on, believe it or not. Right now, they're at 48, and they were at, I believe, if I remember correctly, they were above 90 yesterday. They are at 48 today. Talk about a shock to the system. That was an absolute big one. Now, here's the surface map at the moment, as of 21Z. You've got a 988 plot, as we showed you on that. On the temperature map, the winds is showing you where the circulation is. You plot the pressure, so you get obviously know what the lowest pressure. Again, this is not down somewhere in the 970s. I think it got down to about a 982 low at one point last night, and it's filled to a 988. It's already occluded out. The occluded front is here. The air has basically swept all the way around the circulation. And it continues to occlude, and when a cyclone has reached this stage, it has reached its peak intensity, and now from this point on, you're going to continue to see it slowly weaken. North and west of there, you've got temperatures in the 20s, and even some lower 20s back through western South Dakota. I think Denver, last I checked, was at 35. So they went from 80 to below freezing to the 20s last night, and now they're back only into the mid-30s. But for them, at least, the worst of it is long over with. And you can see the cold temperatures up through northern Minnesota, through the Dakotas, and into much of northwestern Wisconsin. All of this in the winter storm warning area. By the way, quick check on our weather in the east, because when you look at the satellite, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's this giant arm of clouds. It was a very relatively narrow band of clouds that swept around. We saw the beginnings of it last night. It parked itself right over me and over Long Island, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, southern New York, and New England, and kept us in clouds all day. And we had areas that didn't even get out of the 40s for highs. And then, of course, the south wind took over along the coast, which even if the sun did manage to poke its head through, it would not have made any difference. So here's the snowfall. This was through 8 a.m. this morning. So obviously, we're going to see more. I'm just going to change the map to 72-hour snowfall, so we can take back what's going on. Now, Denver got on the plot here got 4 inches. They were forecast to get somewhere between 4 to 6, 5 to 7, so it's probably on the, came in on the low side. The mountains to the north and west were forecast to get a foot plus, and that looks like there it may have come in a bit on the low side. But meanwhile, when we look up through South Dakota, we've got some pretty big numbers here. And again, you saw on the radar, we're still adding to them. This is through 8 o'clock this morning. A large area in the darker brown, that's all that's all a foot plus. You start to get to that more yellowish area, you're talking 8 to 12. You have here getting in that 8-inch zone. Minneapolis was in the 6-inch zone. St. Paul was right on the border of 6 and 8. And that arm extended back across Wisconsin. Milwaukee actually got 2 inches. Now, this is also a time of year where time of day is a big deal. So you could have the snowfall during the day. It's very hard to accumulate. So the nighttime snowfall certainly do accumulate without any issue, obviously. There's no sun angle issue at night, folks, nor does the moon angle work. But the bottom line is we don't know how much of this. It could have been snowing there for a good part of the day yesterday and probably not much accumulated. So you have to kind of look at the total precip that was generated as well, just to get a feel for what I guess what it could have been under colder circumstances. But that's part of that arm of moisture, and it extended east across Michigan, even some 1-inch amounts on the main peninsula of Michigan. Lansing, for example, Grand Rapids getting about 1 inch. But further east, the precip there was actually a little bit of light shower activity. And Chuck Cardillo, who's up in the Catskills at elevation of 2,800 feet, and I saw it on the radar in upstate New York a few hours ago. We had some snow being indicated there. So definitely, this storm did pretty well. Not to forget Maine, by the way, in the last 72 hours, just to show you that from the systems that have been impacting New England through Tuesday and Tuesday night, producing some 1 foot plus amounts in parts of Maine in the last 72 hours. It seems like it never stops up there, but eventually it has to, because before too long it will be July, and you don't want to have that happening for too much longer. Mud season is going to be fun up that way. The satellite loop tonight, pretty impressive. Let me just get rid of this. It was looping before. See if I can get it started again. There it goes. So if you look on the right side, you'll see the clouds, that arm. It just literally came right on top of my area, and we're still seeing some of those clouds. It's just basically blow off from this storm, and look at all that high level moisture coming from the Gulf Coast, running straight northeastward, wrapping itself around the upper circulation that is just spinning away there. This is a very, very well-developed system in the upper atmosphere, and it's just pretty much controlling everything. It's the one big gear that is driving the weather on both coasts here. It's such a huge player, and of course, the movement here very slow, just kind of inching along, which is prolonging the snowfall and creating some of the higher amounts that we've seen so far, and we're going to keep. Of course, we're going to keep adding to that. So let's see where models take us, because we're now I guess we consider ourselves at least halfway through this, and there's your low with the GFS. I'm going to start with the surface and take us through the rest of this storm. Then we'll look at the upper air to see where we're going in the future. But the low just starts to move away by tomorrow afternoon. It's up near the shores of Lake Superior. There, it's a 997-ish low. 990. It's hard for me to read the pressure, but we're seeing that pressure filling from 988 now to a 94 low, to a 96, 97-ish low on the west shores of Lake Superior, and you're still getting snows going on back across Minnesota and South Dakota into tomorrow afternoon. A lot of those blizzard warnings, by the way, continue well into tomorrow morning, and rightfully so, because the pressure gradient is still pretty tight. But if you look at the precip in terms of the amounts, because this is what the GFS is telling us, in terms of the amounts, those darker blues on the scale are 6-inch plus amounts or more in a 6-hour period. Well, they really start to fade away, and then you're just dealing with lighter snows as you go into Friday afternoon and Friday night as the low moves away to the northeast. Meanwhile, for Illinois and Indiana, this is where during the overnight you could see some severe weather possibility with this cold front that's sweeping eastward. And then, of course, we've got that small marginal risk in western PA. The GFS picks up on that. And that's the front that comes through Friday night into Saturday morning. And the question for my area is going to be, is it going to get out of the way enough so that we can get some sun, have at least one decent weekend day, and bring temperatures up into the 70s, because the air behind this front is not really all that cold. In fact, it's not cold at all. Meanwhile, the firing up of the next low begins in Texas. You see it here Saturday morning. And this is part of that large area of enhanced risk for severe weather for Saturday night into Sunday morning. And then that area is going to shift east into the southeastern states for Sunday into Sunday night. And here comes the next round of rain for my area and low pressure. This low is running up the west side of the Appalachians. So it doesn't look like it's going to redevelop off along the coast. It's just going to pretty much be a warm front, cold front scenario with some downpours and thunderstorms. I think this second system could be a system that produces about an inch to an inch and a half of rain, maybe some isolated 2-inch amounts in some places before that moves by. All right, now let's go back. Let's come back now. Let's look at the what's going on in the upper air. Very, very active pattern setting up, and Patreon members and those of you who are on my website, I did write a post about this today, talking about the overall upper air pattern. I'm backing it up just to Tuesday, when you can see what the jet stream pattern looked like and the beginnings of the system coming into the northwest. That is the storm in the plains now. That shortwave dived southeastward into the Rockies, and then as this big ridge popped up along the east coast, deep upper low east of Newfoundland, driving a big ridge in the east, and then you've got this very deep trough on the other side of that in the west, in the Rockies. And the upper low is all wrapped up there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost, actually 6 contours, 6 height contours closed. So that's a pretty strong storm there in driving all of this. That lifts up very far to the west. So you can see how it goes up toward the western lakes. We're still in a ridge position here Friday night into Saturday as this cold front comes through. So it's only going to be able to produce so much because it's coming into a ridge position. That will not be the case for the Sunday system. If you'll watch how the first one pulls out, up in the northwest, in northwest Canada, right along the coast of British Columbia, and we can actually take it back a little further, this closed low that's in the Gulf of Alaska, that's the energy for the next system that drops down into the southwest for Friday night and Saturday, and there's an upper low there in West Texas near Amarillo. This is why they actually have snow in their forecast, rain and snow mix in their forecast for at some point Saturday. That upper low then lifts up, but notice the trough here is much further to the east. Let's back it up again. So here's the first one from the Rockies, plays out to the western lakes. You don't get any real trough that moves through the eastern part of the United States. You got this flat ridge by the time we get to Saturday. And now the second one is a different story. The ridge moves east, the trough and shortwave lift up and maintain a very strong identity, and then that lifts up into eastern Canada. And of course, notice right behind it, look at this upper low that's near the western part of the Aleutians. Okay, that becomes a system for later next week, which we talked about yesterday. That's another one that dives down into the Rockies, and this one I think is going to be the strongest and furthest east of the three. You've got a very, very deep, sharp trough here by the end of next week and going into next weekend. So this might be the biggest of the three in terms of producing the rain, total rainfall amounts. That's a pretty sharp, long wave that goes up and down. Now, whether this still is the way we'll see it in the models over the next few days remains to be seen. But I think it's pretty clear that there's 3 short waves in play here. The first one, the weakest. The second one for Sunday night, Monday, stronger. And then a third one for the end of next week, the strongest of the bunch. The only thing I would point out is through all of this is that between the system for Sunday night, Monday, and until we get to Friday, there's actually there are a couple of other weak short waves running around. They're a little hard to see on this view, but it does present a problem with respect to the possibility that we could have chances for showers in between the Sunday night, Monday morning system and the system for the end of the week. For example, if you look here on next Wednesday, there actually is a lead shortwave that runs out from southeastern Iowa down into Tennessee. So it's nothing like this one that comes in Sunday night, Monday, and it's nothing like the one that follows for late next week. But it might be enough that there could be minor issues with regards to chances for showers in my neck of the woods in between these two systems. So models seem to be still pretty much on course with this view that it showed from yesterday. I didn't see, just for laughs, I want to take a look, just going to run this upper air again. I want to see what it does beyond this period, because after this long wave trough on the model, the way it handles it, it lifts it out. It gets blocky. I mean, it does try to get blocky there. See that blocking high that is between the Azores and Greenland and kind of pushing into Labrador. So you start to see these cutoffs. This is the beauty of spring, when you start to get into these cutoffs that present themselves. That's not a pretty sight if we wind up having that toward the end of the month. Whether that winds up happening or not, I don't know, but I hope we don't see something like this, if only because of the fact that this is where you could wind up with prolonged long periods of relatively miserable weather. The 10-day rainfall, I think, is something we should look at. Not the 16-day. But let's just at least go out we'll go out 9 days. Okay, but the 9-day rainfall on the GFS in the eastern half of the United States is fairly substantial. You've got some 3 to 5 inch plus amounts for the parts of the Ohio and the Ohio Valley down through the middle Mississippi Valley. You can see that darker stripe of red in western Tennessee, western parts of Kentucky, small parts of northeast Arkansas, northern Mississippi. In the east, you're in that purplish area that's anywhere from 2 to as much as 4 inches. I don't think that is unreasonable. You spread that out over 3 weather systems over the course of 9 days. I think that's certainly doable. Let's look at WPC and see what they have to say with regards to the rainfall amounts over the next 7 days. And I know they were bullish yesterday in and around the central Gulf Coast, and they remain so. This is from this time frame is from 8 o'clock tonight and runs to 8 o'clock next Thursday. So look at these, 5-inch plus amounts in southeastern Missouri, western Tennessee, northwest Mississippi, eastern Arkansas. You've got some pretty interesting amounts of up to several inches running up through New England. It's not there. There are some pockets in West Virginia, for some West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, that are in the 1.5 inch or less zone, and also amounts decrease when you get into the coastal Carolinas and decrease further as you head into Florida. So it's really the lower and middle Mississippi Valley and parts of the Ohio Valley headed up into the lower lakes that seem to be in line for some pretty hefty rainfalls. And it's the system, by the way, for Saturday night and Sunday. I'm sorry, for the one for Saturday into Sunday morning for the lower Mississippi Valley. That is going to probably produce some very heavy thunderstorms with some heavy rains. This one, the weekend system is going to have some Gulf inflow in it. The one today does not, but this one is going to have some Gulf moisture getting involved. I should correct that. The storm from today, the plain storm, does have a little bit some moisture coming up from out of the Gulf of Mexico, but it's not going to be anything like this system is. I want to go back. By the way, let me go back to. I want to bring up the NAM model because I mentioned about Amarillo getting snow, and I want to show you how it gets to that. So let me just center it here. I'll get the NAM up. And there we go. So let's run this back. But here's the NAM's view of things. First off, oops. Sorry for all the switching back and forth. I'm just trying to get everything straight here. Let's back it up. There's the NAM's view of our low as it starts to find its way up toward Lake Superior, and now you're going to start to see the low developing in Texas with this is now we're at 5 a.m. Saturday. The low is starting to develop, and if you look back in northwest Texas, you begin to see on the NAM this expanding area of blue. That is snow, cold air. The remnants of cold air behind this first storm are going to be pinned a bit in the plains and down into North Texas. So it's entirely possible that they're going to see it's over the course of a few days, but 95 yesterday to the chance for some snow in the forecast. This is for late Friday night, early Saturday if it materializes. And you can see how the NAM, by the way, produces all this precip, its view of the radars going into Sunday morning. Has a pretty solid line of thunderstorms there on the NAM 12 kilometer down through eastern Arkansas and central Louisiana. And then the severe weather on Sunday shifts eastward into Alabama and Georgia. And you can see how the model handles this. And, of course, the rain that comes up for the Northeast. I'm thinking the big questions for my area for the weekend is this rain for Friday night and Saturday morning, which is kind of this narrow band that comes through, puts down up to about a half an inch or so pretty quickly. It seems to want to get out of the way before daybreak. And if it does, I think that we're going to see some sunshine and temperatures should get into the 70s. And there might be even some odd 80-degree readings out of this if we get enough sun. Now, as far as Sunday is concerned, with the low tracking this far to the west and coming so quickly, it's going to take a little while for moisture to kind of build back in. So I think the daytime on Sunday might be, for the most part, dry, and you'll have to just kind of wait for Sunday night into Monday morning to get into the heavy rains as the low runs up into Ohio and eventually heads up into western New York and up the St. Lawrence Valley. So I'm hoping that the Saturday thing works out because with the air behind the first cold front not being anything of consequence, and the strong April sun going to work on it, we should be able to take temperatures up fairly quickly. And we're not going to be that low tomorrow. Temperatures tomorrow will probably should make it up into the 60s in a lot of locations, and I don't see where those temperatures are going to be going tomorrow night. So if that's the case, we're going to be starting off with a pretty good launching pad here in my area, eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England for Saturday. So I'm back on the board. We've got a little bit of time here to take a few points. Does it ever stop snowing in Caribou? In May 67, Scott Briller, they got 10 inches. Well, let's hope it does. It's got to eventually. David Schwartz, what does the forecast look for Florida next week? Going down to visit your mom. Okay. Well, I would say, with all the action going on across the United States, outside of the Florida Peninsula, of course, there will be some showers. I'm thinking there'll be some showers and storms scattered around on Sunday. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the first 3 days of next week actually look pretty dry. And, maybe you start to get into some scattered showers and storms toward the end of next week. There's, with the lows going as far north as they are, the southern ends of these cold fronts don't have a whole lot of support to them. So the showers tend to will have a tendency to want to fall apart as they cross the state of Florida. So you've got some stuff coming in for Sunday night, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday look good. Then you start to get into some scattered showers, perhaps Wednesday evening, and then on Thursday again. There's a front of if everything times out, there's a front that comes through Friday night into next Saturday morning. I'm sorry, I got my days wrong. Well, there's one. Why is it doing that? All right, this is Friday into Saturday. So yeah, there'll be a front coming through Friday night into Saturday, and you're going to have some lingering showers into Sunday morning before the front clears out. I think most of the time next week is going to be fairly reasonable with regards to your weather in Florida. Just noticing that the GFS with the next system, winds up taking a low a little further north than yesterday, and eventually moves it up into Michigan, and it actually produces some snows for parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern Michigan. But that's so far out in the long range, who knows, how that's going to play out. But it's just kind of odd that we're still dealing with this, and we're almost halfway through the month of April. The front should drag that system out of Florida then. I'm sorry, Chris Wilson. Which system are we referring to, though? There's always showers around in South Florida. The first front after it goes by for this weekend, the weather behind that should be fine for at least 2 days or possibly 3, and then after that, we're only looking at really scattered stuff in my view. Christine Miller, yes, you're going to be in line for severe weather there Saturday with that low coming out of Texas. So bear that in mind. That there's going to be some pretty hefty thunderstorms. Is the slow movement of this storm because of the blocking pattern? To some degree, Chuck Cardillo, yes. We do have a blocky setup right now. The NAO is somewhat negative. Last I checked, when I looked at it earlier today, it's somewhat negative. It's not crazy negative, but it's negative enough. It actually goes positive this weekend. In the next 2 days. The NAO shoots to slightly positive, then goes slightly negative through all of next week. But the readings aren't all that strong. They're very relatively weak readings through all of this, but I guess it's enough. We're also, when you get into the spring, weather systems naturally just start slowing down. The jet streams are beginning to weaken at all levels of the atmosphere, so weather systems do tend to slow down, and in this particular instance, the slowing down has really impacted in terms of snow amounts. Doug Crum, now I see why North Texas cooled so rapidly. Yes, the backside of the low just kind of swept in. The cold air is sweeping all the way around the cyclone now as it's occluding out, and these temperatures. It's very dry. That's the other thing. You're not seeing outbreaks of severe weather across the Gulf states with this because the low is so far north, and all this dry air is coming down and sweeping eastward across the Gulf states. So that's not going to be the case with the next low coming for this weekend. Let's see. Just Ken DPW, nice to see you on board tonight, by the way. Same for Robert Brown. Of course, Scott Briller always usually the first one on every night. Just to remind everybody that we do have, when I set up the time of the live stream, it's usually a few hours before. The chat board is open, so if I can't always get to it, but the chat board is open. So if you have any questions, pre-show, and it's open for a while after the live stream is done, so you can always post some questions. I should also mention, by the way, for those of you who are on my Facebook page, as far as the lives are concerned on the on Facebook, the Joe and Joe Weather Show, some folks have been telling me that this has been an ongoing problem with Facebook for a while, that they are regulars on my Facebook page and they're not getting notifications. Just make sure that your notification setting is turned on, and also make sure the following setting is turned on. You want to make sure you are following and you've got the notifications turned on, because apparently I've been told that makes a huge difference. So double check your settings in case you are a regular on my Facebook page and you are not getting notifications the way you should be. Charles Gale, I am the best entertainment on the internet. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Well, this entertainment now has to go. So thanks very much for being here tonight. Special thanks to William Uber, Johnny Quest, and David Schwartz, who have bought me a cigar and a cup of coffee by hitting Super Chat tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And they actually did it before we even went on the air, which was great. Thanks very much for doing that. Just a couple of quick things for those of you who would like to possibly expand your weather experience. You can do that by joining up on my weather platform on Patreon. The link is there on the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this live stream, or if you're watching this on a replay, the descriptor to the video. It's just $2 a month, and you get a lot of extra weather. I haven't done. I do individual live streams on Patreon, but the weather hasn't really been doing very much here in my neck of the woods. So as soon as it picks up, you get your own private live streams as well. Plus, you can message me at any time. You have forecast questions for your area, I can help you out with that. So just consider it. It's $2 a month, and it goes a long way to help support all the stuff that I'm doing. Just also my free weather app, and we're working on a second one for my buddy Ben Scott, who does Angry Ben's Angry Weather and covers New York City. We're going to have an app coming out for him shortly, and in the meantime, we have some updates that I'm working on for my app currently. It works on all mobile devices, and it's absolutely free, and you can get the weather for wherever your location is. Just have to manually put it in when you're on the forecast page of the app, and it'll pull down your current conditions and your local forecast. When the update comes out, it'll have geolocation on it so that you won't have to do that anymore. So there's the link to that one. And one last thing before I say goodbye. For those of you, if you shop on Amazon, you can do it directly via my link on Amazon, and it's up here. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just use the search bar, get whatever it is you got to get, and Amazon throws me back a little bit of coin so I can get a few cigars, and it's all on them. We're a participant in the Amazon Services LLC Associates Program, which is an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for us to earn fees by linking to Amazon.com and its affiliated sites. The Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight on Facebook at roughly 9:25, so do join us then. If not, I'll upload it to YouTube later on tonight. Have a great evening, and we will see you tomorrow.